Hebrews chapter 11 said that there were those who stopped the mouths of lions. It's a story about a young boy named Daniel who was a refugee from Israel to Babylon, where Cyrus had taken over leadership. Daniel grows up in the kingdom. God has all kinds of favor upon him, and he rises to be second in the kingdom as a foreign boy. We can understand the jealousy that must have arisen among people who couldn't believe that this outsider had such prestige, honor, and power before the king. And so they devised a deadly plan for Daniel, a devious plan. They went to the king and said, nobody should worship anybody but you. And if they do, if they pray or proclaim any other god for 30 days, they ought to be thrown into the lion's den and destroyed. The king's pride mounted up and he said, you're right. Before he knew it, he placed his seal, his signet ring on a document that couldn't even be changed by himself. The proclamation went out. Daniel heard the proclamation and he decided that he would rather pray and live his life of conviction than in some way give up his convictions to live a different kind of life. Well, Daniel does that. He goes to the king and he says, King, I have to pray. The king is sick inside and he knows what he's done wrong, but it can't be changed. And so Daniel is led to the lion's den. It seems that his destiny is decided. His death is inevitable because the document has been signed and sealed. Ever been there? Where it seems like you only have one choice. That's either to give in to compromise or live some kind of terrible alternative. Daniel decides he'd rather trust God than compromise his faith. And so that's what he does. He's thrown into the lion's den. And the king comes to him in absolute anguish after a night of sleeplessness, after he's been in the lion's den. And the scripture says that he cried out and he said, Daniel, oh Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lion's den? Daniel says to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him and before you, O king. The king was exceedingly glad. He had those who had accused Daniel and developed the devious plan thrown into the lion's den, and they received the fate for the destiny that they wanted to give Daniel. Daniel decided to be gracious to the king, to give God glory, and to leave the result in God's hands. What about you? What might you be tempted to compromise with today? How important is the pattern of your prayer life and your communion with God? Would you rather die than live without prayer? Daniel knew that he needed to leave the consequences of his obedience up to God, and that God would take care of the rest. He didn't know if he would die or go to heaven, but he knew that God would be responsible for the best outcome for his life. How could Daniel possibly be so gracious to those who had not been gracious to him? But he was, and God received great glory. The king ended up saying, his kingdom shall never be destroyed. His dominion shall not have an end. He delivers and he rescues. He works signs and wonders in heaven and earth. He has saved Daniel from the power of the lions. You see, Daniel's faith impacted not only his life, not only those close to him, but an entire kingdom. When we live our faith and trust in God, no matter what, and leave the consequences to God, he receives glory, and it touches people around us, and it allows God to work in ways that surprise us. His angels are on call. His work awaits for those who trust in him and walk by faith. May you and I today take Daniel's example and trust God with the results of our obedience. I'm Pastor Tim. That's our one-a-day journey of faith. God bless you.